Hey guys, this is the demo for week two's discussion on APIs and Node, and in this video we're just going to go over using Postman to handle requests that we're going to be making to a server that we're going to run on our computer, and we're also going to go over some organization and server setup here. So the first thing I'm going to go over is this file structure that I have here. As you can see, I have several folders. One called config, which contains most of our server setup, one for controllers, which makes the final handling of our requests and sends the response, one for node modules, which are just the packages that we're going to be using, and I also have one for routes, which contains, as you'll see in a little bit, which further directs the request URLs, and this file called server.js, which is the entry point of our server. So the first thing I'm doing in server.js is importing the setup that I have in express.js, and I'll go over that in a second. And then I'm specifying which port I want to use. I'm hard coding 8000, or alternatively, you can use an environment variable. And then I'm going to start the server, and then I'm going to tell the server to listen on the port that I specified. And once it starts listening, it'll log it on the console. Server is now running on port and include the number. So in the setup I have here in express.js, I'm importing the package express, the package Morgan, and the package body parser. And I'm also importing the routes that I'm gonna be using. And I import the routes separately just so it's expandable. So for example, if you have routes for users or routes for if you're running some sort of, I don't know, delivery service, you have routes for orders. That way it just makes organization much easier and cleaner to understand. So in the setup, I initialize the app and then I tell the app to use Morgan, which is used for, as you can see here, logging the requests that we're going to be making to our console. And then I'm also telling it to use the body parser middleware, which basically just parses the body of our request based on the type that we're sending it as. So for example, if you're using Axios to send your requests, it sends it as JSON, so it'll recognize that as JSON, and then it'll use bodyparser.json to parse that request body. And then we're going to add the routers for our request URL. So if we're running our server on port 8000 locally, the URL will be localhost colon 8000. And I specify that further if the URL contains slash API, I'll direct it to simple routes. And in this simple routes folder, I can further direct the URL to the specific functions that I want to use to handle it. So I import these functions at the top from my controller file, and then I say if this is a GET request, these are just methods from Express. They support a lot of them. These are just two basic ones. You'll probably use these the most. So I'll say if this is a GET request and the URL is get info, so if it was localhost 8000 slash API slash get info, I'll direct it to the function get info. And it's the same idea for the post request. I'll direct it to the function post info. So this is where I handle the request and I also send the response. So in the case of a GET request to get info, if I was linked to a database, for example, I would retrieve the information that I want, and then I can send a response as JSON format with the property. You can send whatever you want. This is just as an example. I send the response as a JSON with the property message and then a string that says your information here. And similar idea for post info. If I was linked to a database, I post information using the body of the request. And then I can send a response basically just saying successfully posted, whatever you want. In this case, it's just a property called message that says information successfully posted, and then whatever I use or put in the body. And I export these functions with this. So let's start the server. As you can see here, logged server is now running on port 8000, as it should here. And I'm going to open up Postman, and I'll create my first request. I'll call it get information since it'll be a get request. And here, okay. So let's say I'm making a request to the URL get info. I should expect the response message as a JSON with the property message that says your information here. So if I run this, you can see the response I get. Message your information here. And these other settings are for more different properties of your request. So in the next request, the post, we're going to be using the body, but there's also something for headers, authorization, pre-request scripts, some tests you can write, and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to make a new request. We'll call it post information. Save it, change it to a post. Also, you can see here that when we made that GET request, it logged using this Morgan middleware that we used. It logged that we made a request to /API/getInfo, and the response was successful. All right, so if we now make a post request to post info, we can see that it expects something in the body called info, a property called info. So if I wanted to post something using or test something using Postman, and I want to send something in the body, in this case, since I expect it to be sent as JSON, I'll select raw, a type as JSON, and this is just the syntax for JSON files. Attach a property called info, and it'll say this is information. So now if I send this request, I should expect a response that says information successfully posted, and then whatever I specified in this body on the property info. You can see here that that's the response that I got. And you can see that it was also logged here.